It's always a pleasure.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, it looks like we know for sure that you didn't blow up the Nord Stream. So as Tucker Carlson said, well, that was not me. I have an alibi.
Well, it
This
wasn't
day,
me either.
this day I was busy. But after reading your article, it's well, you think great minds think the same. So you're also quite sure after Hirsch and the president that CIA did it.
Well, it's been pretty clear since Seymour Hersh told us the story, what happened. And it's pretty certain that nobody has responded to him in more than a year that has any way contradicted what he said. You may remember that early on I was asked actually by the Russian government to testify in the UN Security Council about this because Russia was calling for an independent investigation. I thought that was an excellent idea. I still do. The West rejected it. Recently, Sweden said, we're not going to discuss anything more about this. It wasn't Swedes. Everybody has, of course, gone completely silent. But I think President Putin was pretty accurate in what he said, and it conforms with all the evidence. So the whole interview was very interesting as far as I'm concerned.
Why? What was so? Because we read it in Russia definitely different than people outside of Russia. So, was it really an info bomb?
The basic points that President Putin raised have not been discussed at all in the mainstream in the United States. And even though, again, after the interview, every mainstream outlet tried to dismiss this immediately. Well, this is just propaganda. It's boring. It's rambling. The fact is, tens of millions of people, it seems like more than 100 million people have watched this.
Well, only on X now it's almost 200 million.
All right, so it's really significant. It is something that the U.S. government and, of course, its mainstream outlets don't want to
Jeffrey,
be heard
just a
at
moment.
all.
Sorry, Jeffrey. It turned out that they have a slight problem with interpretation.
Ah.
Well, I'll do the job. So go ahead, please.
Well, I was saying that despite the fact that
Я говорил, что несмотря на тот факт, что... Well, go ahead, I'm just interpreting. Что государство...
As you point out, around 200 million people have watched the interview. I found it extremely interesting. The points that I know, and I know a lot of this firsthand over the last 30 years, I thought the President Putin was very, very accurate and extremely interesting about what he said.
Will it change anything?
Step by step. The American people are already really unhappy with any continued funding of the Ukraine war. The military-industrial complex still pushes. The mainstream political leaders still push. But the public is coming to understand this step by step. And there are a lot more political voices also, especially in the Republican Party, that also listen to the interview and that are also responding. So I think it does make a difference.
Well, we'll see, because it looks like right now there will be new finance for this war in Ukraine, and doesn't really matter, but American Democrats are willing to fight against Russia till the last drop of Ukrainian soldier or Ukrainian people as such, because now they also have pretty much women fighting against Russia and dying for nothing.
Yeah, I made the point last week that that this is a bill to kill more Ukrainians. Unfortunately, it's nothing other than that. It's going to be a close call because the Senate probably will support this, but it may absolutely not make it through the Republican-dominated House of Representatives. So I don't think that the story is finished even on this particular round. But even if there is more money and it's wasted, I don't think it's going to change very much. The European public is sick of this war. The Ukrainians are completely exhausted. They don't have troops. They don't have the armaments. The United States doesn't have the artillery to give. This is really a dreadful, dreadful disaster. What President Putin made clear, which I absolutely believe, is that this is the culmination of 30 years of U.S. attempt since the early 1990s, when I was directly involved. A U.S. attempt to undermine Russia, and it's coming to an end, painfully, slowly, awfully, but it is going to come to an end. This has been a terrible policy all along.
But that looks really heartbreaking, you know. Well, I'm definitely not one of the Biden's fan, but now when you look at this poor fellow, you know, it's ridiculous. You know, it's humiliating for the whole world to see this guy being tortured by people surrounding him, saying that, oh, come on, you have to make yet another speech, and he doesn't realize neither where is he, what he has to say. So basically, it's painful, and it's wrong because the United States raise a lot of questions. Who runs the government nowadays? What's happening in politics, as we discussed many times. But the worst thing, that people that are running the United States right now, they're not accountable for anything. They can hit you with the charges of treason. They can hit Tucker Carlson. They can do whatever they want, and there will be no one to respond on the proper answer. Who's in charge? Who's responsible?
It is kind of the end of an era because it's octogenarians. Mitch McConnell is the same thing. You know, he is not well. He's not in capacity. Biden is definitely not well. The Senate leaders are very old. They're very tired. This policy of the United States has been going on for 30 years plus. Actually, it's a continuation of policies that are even decades before that. But even since the end of the Soviet Union, this has been pretty much a continuous policy. That was, I think, President Putin's, very correct point that it's not one thing. It's been attempt after attempt, whether it's NATO enlargement or the missile placements or the support for the Chechen rebels. It was nonstop attempts to weaken Russia. But now it's being carried out by 80-year-old men with a public that doesn't want this. So it's pretty interesting, actually, what's going to happen. There's a huge gap between these senators still trying to push more money and the American public. And I think the interview is reaching a lot of people. And you know who else reaches a lot of people, of course, is Elon Musk. And he's very clear about that. So he's got a very, very powerful voice inside the United States. And he's also clear this is a waste of time, waste of money, and waste of lives.
But Elon Musk gonna pay for this because now there is committee trying to investigate whether he had the right to buy Twitter. So definitely they're pretty much disappointed with Elon Musk, with the fact that they allowed him to do this deal, and it won't go away by itself. So those rushes, they work slowly but steadily.
If I had to bet between Biden and Musk, I'll bet with Elon. So this is, I think he'll find his way through pretty well.
Yeah, but he still supports Ukraine. So in Russia, he's not beloved personality. We used to be in good terms with Elon Musk, but after he's fighting for Ukrainians and doing the whole wrong thing at the front line.
Now, it's actually interesting. He's very clear this week. This money is a waste of money. It should be stopped. It's also interesting. I don't know how much, but there are a lot of Russians on the contact line using Starlink, also, according to what we've seen. So it seems to be a business on both sides right now.
Well, honestly saying, not really. Not really. Only the one that we can take from Ukrainians using Ukrainian cards that pretend to be Ukrainian satellite points. So that's it's between Musk, and I think that's the news that has been implemented by Ukrainian intelligence services as disinformation. To hit Musk.
I can't vouch for it, but what I can vouch for is that Elon has been quite clear this week. Stop the money. It's really just killing young Ukrainians, which is plus, really the core point.
It's weird that in the United States they don't see the fact Ukrainians are not willing to fight for this country. A lot of them fled Ukraine.
They don't care. This is a long project. It has nothing especially to do with Ukraine. It has all to do with Russia. And as long as someone's ready to take the weapons and go to the front line and try to kill Russians, they're going to continue to do it. This long-standing project, it's failed. President Putin called their bluff. He understood the game. It's failed. I was quite sure it was going to fail from the start. I said this was the final neocon debacle. I think we're at the end of a 30-year cycle, frankly, which is has been a disaster for America.
Yeah, but the question is how bloody this end will be, and who's going to run the country. Trump is also not a young boy.
Things drag on for a long time. That's America's bad habit. Our wars drag on even after they're finished. They drag on. This is, what we've seen from Vietnam onwards. Getting America to fold a losing hand can be a long process, but the faster the better as far as I'm concerned, because this has been nothing but a set of blunders, and there's no way out other than, my God, to start talking and negotiating and exactly.
We came back to the same question that we discussed for almost a year. No one to discuss with, no one to negotiate with.
It may be literally right now that there's no one to negotiate with, because I'm not sure we have on the other side someone to negotiate with. It's a little bit alarming, but on the other hand, we could find someone to hold these discussions, because it's the American interest, the Russian interest, and
like whom? You look, there is nothing America can do between Israel and Palestine. Zero understanding what to do with China and Taiwan. So basically, America has zero solutions for major world problems.
The problem is that the United States forgot diplomacy, so they don't know how to talk to other governments. This is really the consistent problem. The idea has been subversion and war is enough. We get to choose who governs. We get to decide how it's going to go. We'll fight if necessary. That's good for the military-industrial complex. We don't have to have diplomacy. So exactly in the areas you're discussing, in the Middle East, no diplomacy. It's what Israel wants. It's led to complete disaster. With China, they basically turned off diplomacy many years ago, and aside from a few sporadic contacts, there's no serious diplomacy with China. And with Ukraine, we see what it is. And President Putin made it clear. I've been asking all along, has there been one discussion between Biden and Putin? The answer is no. It's unbelievable. It
but
really
also,
is unbelievable.
Yeah, but also what Putin did, he actually completely destroyed Western image of him as a dictator, with also a madman who is willing to kill the whole world, a person not to talk to. Putin is extremely reasonable, very calm, in great physical shape. Definitely not the image that the West has been trying to build for almost 2 years. Putin.
So what could the
sincere.
media say? They said he's
Exactly.
boring, he's rambling.
Oh, yeah,
But
right, yeah.
no. But exactly the fact of the matter is they cannot take on the basic points. No serious discussion. This is rather alarming because this is the U.S. scene right now, which is no serious discussion of serious issues.
Not only with states, but also with Europe, as Putin mentioned. Whom to talk to? Whom to
Yeah, it's
talk
quite
to?
interesting. The one thing that perplexed Putin has been the thing that has perplexed me all along. I'm asked all the time, why does Germany go along with all of this? Destroy Germany's economy. It is absolutely not in Europe's interest. Why does Schultz go along with this? And this is the one answer where President Putin says, I don't know. I can't figure it out. So I was happy he said that because I can't figure it out either. And I'm saying the same thing to the European leaders. I know many of them. What are you doing? It's been years that I've been saying this is a complete dead end for Europe. It's absolutely makes no sense for Europe not to engage directly with Russia. This was the idea, by the way, of the nearly defunct OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, something I like, which makes sense. It's a kind of European multilateral security framework, nearly dead because, of course, the U.S. tried to kill it by putting NATO as the only story. But the Europeans and Russia should be absolutely discussing normally. Now, what's interesting, of course, is more and more European governments are coming around to that view. So it's not Viktor Orban alone. Slovakia, Hungary, probably the Netherlands soon. And I think others will come to this conclusion as well. So it's slow, it's frustrating, but I think the tide is turning, and I think the interview will have really a significant effect because people will watch it. They're going to have to watch it. They're going to have to go back to it. They're going to have to read it. They're going to have to confront actual ideas, statements, and the clear openness of President Putin and Russia in general to negotiate, which has been absolutely clear 2008, 2013, 2021, 2022. For anyone that has followed this story, there have been ample opportunities to resolve these crises through actual diplomacy. Everyone's been turned down by the U.S. because the U.S. gambled that diplomacy wasn't needed. And that's basically the story that President Putin says. And I think he told it very accurately.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I still believe that you're the last optimist of this world.
I'm an optimist. You're right. And I'm going to be proved right one of these days. You're right so far, but I'm going to be proved
I hope
right
so.
one of these days.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for that.
Very
Thank
good.
you so much,
I'm
Jeffrey.
waiting to say I told you so. Good. Thanks a lot.
Вы слышали Джеффри Сакс.